After everything settled, a woman with twilight hair lay motionless, her one magnificent horn broken clean in two. Her violet eyes cut like moonlight, calm, unreadable, and locked on something just above her as she stares up. A bandaged young man locks eyes with the chaos, stunned beyond belief, and blurts out, "What is this? This can't be real." The story plunges into a grim German street, and a voice bitterly complains about how he can't stop doing this job. They finally confirm it, Berlin, Germany, and that bitter regret keeps pounding through the night like an echo that won't die. A hand grips a phone and doubts your sanity. Are you really telling yourself those aberrations aren't real? A young woman sprints, gasping for every breath, while the narration slams in the fact that the era has totally shifted. She bolts through a dark alley because those monster rumors just turned into real sightings right in front of her eyes. She tries to shut it down, swearing up and down it's nothing but fake occult trash. A hulking hand, packed with razor teeth, emerges and seems to dare him, so tell me, is this really what he's up against? A grotesque aberration pounces on the woman, and her denial shatters the moment she sees its horrifying form. Her disbelief shatters, and then one raw, unstoppable scream tears out of her. Pure terror. A hooded warrior drops out of the sky like a nightmare, framed by the moonlight, blade already poised to strike. With a blur of motion, the warrior slashes clean through the monster's arm. Boy Tutura glares with grim fury as the beast's black blood erupts and splashes across everything. The rescued woman can only freeze there, wide-eyed and utterly speechless, staring at her savior in stunned disbelief. The creature collapses in an instant, vanishing for good as jet-black ink splatters across the alley walls. All by herself, she stares around the empty alley, totally stunned, like her world just flipped in seconds. She tilts her head toward the rooftops, her skin crawling as she feels someone watching her from above. A bespectacled man leans in and loudly thanks Tutra for the life-saving help he gave during that sudden mission. Tutra, the young exorcist, steels himself with an ornate weapon in hand, his eyes locked and his face carved in pure determination. His handler leans in and asks if any other aberrations are lurking in the city. Tuchera shoots back that everything's clear. Down below, the woman heaved her breath as she heard the man on the roof shout, "I see." The man grins, relieved by the news, but Tutura stays brooding quiet as stone. Tucher detonates in fury at being worked into the ground, and his handler just laughs it off. He blazes, demanding to be sent back home to Japan, and everyone crowns him as a top-tier exorcist. That cheesy flattery makes him recoil in disgust, and his handler clocks the nasty mood on him right away. An extreme close-up on his eyes revealed the furious rage boiling under the surface. He remembers the day those tiny, adorable aberrations crawled up and licked his face like they owned the place. He storms off in full frustration, muttering curses under his breath at the mess he's stuck in. His handler stares as he leaves, and that quiet, knowing smile flickers across his face. A sharp, stark title card slams onto the screen, announcing the monstrous threat and those terrifying aberrations with it. A monstrous wolf skull rockets forward, and the text hammers home the truth. These beings break every rule biology ever wrote. When the nations finally confirmed the terrifying threat, a single chilling conclusion snapped into focus from the evidence they couldn't ignore. These weren't brand new monsters at all. They crawled straight out of every myth and legend people have ever whispered about. The moment this horrifying new reality hit, the whole world felt like it was shaking at its roots. The U.S. representative brushed off the threat like it was nothing, like it couldn't possibly matter. In a massive grand hall, world leaders huddle together for an urgent emergency summit, ready to tackle the crisis head-on. But unlike the American reps, the other representatives looked straight up, shaken fear and worry spilling off them. One leader demanded to know why they couldn't just wipe out these occult threats like the legends always promised. They're gonna need specialists who can fight back against the unseen forces tearing through everything. A nervous official finally admitted that experts like that probably were hiding right among them. Humanity's never been left alone. Guardians and warriors step up every generation, battling threats no one can even see. In today's world, people didn't call them heroes or monsters, just exorcists, the guardians who hunted the darkness. Tutara insisted that today's weapons should be plenty to crush any aberration that dares to show up. Kataru didn't flinch. He calmly declared this was their family's sacred duty, and now the world was finally staring right at it. Stop the truck, touch her with a question, and find out if this really is their only way. He stared out the back, eyes locked on the world he refuses to lose. She watched the girl he rescued burst into tears and reunite with her friend. He couldn't stop worrying that she might reach her friends safely. He knew their work was a secret that civilians must never, ever uncover. Rage burned in his chest when they yanked him overseas for what his family bragged was spiritual training. All the lives they saved would never hear about the brutal violence they had to swallow to get them back. He realized he could no longer dodge the truth of what he was really facing. Kotoru gave him a soft, sharp scolding, telling him he should at least find a little gratitude. Tuchera started to feel his resentment surge higher and higher inside him. He despised every second of this life, nothing but a brutal loop, where the only job was to hunt down and kill living things. He clenched his fist so hard his knuckles ached, dreaming of a normal life where he could finally breathe free. His teammates, though, had no clue that his whole world was silently burning inside him. Kotora baited her with a grin, saying he'd win her over the second he was finally truly free. The burly exorcist sneered at him and shoved himself forward, basically saying he was way better company than some girl. The hooded woman finally snapped, calling them all pathetic, and just like that, she shut down the bickering. Kotoru snapped his hands together and the vibe instantly flipped. A hard, focused gleam lit his eyes as he snapped. "The mission starts now." The hooded woman just stood there, listening like she had all the time in the world, her face calm and totally impossible to read. The whole team went quiet, eyes locked on the deadly job waiting for them next. Tucherel stood there with a grim stare, feeling the new mission slam into his chest. Kataru lays out where they're headed, a cozy German tourist town already buzzing with festival fever. For years, a terrifying aberration has crashed the festival again and again, hunting it for reasons nobody can explain. The creature hits like a titan, so he leans in and explains its name with pure awe, the Beast King. It's a biblical titan from the Old Testament, one of those legendary beasts so terrifyingly strong it feels impossible. Horrified, they shot touchy stares and couldn't believe it because the threat coming their way was absolutely massive. He blurts out, "How in the world could you possibly subjugate something this powerful while you're driving?" Kataru just flashes a smile, nudging Tutra to grab the opening this moment is handing him. If he can finally tame that beast, then a massive reward is waiting right around the corner for him. Kotoru leans in and asks, "Totoro, will you grant my wish if I earn this achievement?" He swears that the life he always wanted, ordinary, wrapped in love, fueled by dreams, might finally be within reach. That promise of freedom hits him like a thunderclap, and in his eyes, a desperate hope finally ignites. That word clatters around in his head as he stares at the calm little town so normal it feels like a lie. He stares at the laughing, carefree townsfolk, and his heart aches to be part of that world. He stands off to the side like a hooded ghost, silently watching the crowd's joy light up around him. That dream of a simple, ordinary life, no love, no hopes, just empty days, suddenly feels razor real. He knows that if he crushes this aberration, freedom could finally be within his grasp. He's completely checked out of the mission, now he doesn't care about the goal anymore, he just wants it over with. He watches that young girl, proof of the simple, normal life he's ready to fight for with everything he's got. Once this mission ends, he vows he'll step into their world and never leave. He bursts across the rooftops, locked on one mission, making sure he's right there with everyone in that peaceful world. But as he stares, a cold, strategic idea slices right through the chaos in his heart. He can't shake the feeling, why do the aberrations always zero in on the festival, and what's the reason hiding behind it? He knows they've got a reason, and he just wants so badly to finally talk to them and make it mean something. He grinds his brain, desperate to figure out what those aberrations are thinking. Then, bam! A blinding flash tears through the dark, and you feel it, the monster has just arrived. With sharp little clicks, the ornate head of his weapon springs to life. A brutal shockwave slams through the town, and it nearly yanks him off the roof. He steadies his breath, grips his weapon tight, and braces for the confrontation he can already see coming. Down the street, windows explode into shards while the townsfolk shriek in panic, shouting, "What's happening?" He plants his feet on the cobblestones and holds his ground as the panicked crowd rushes past, fleeing like their lives depend on it. The joyous festival has totally fallen apart, turning into a full-blown riot where everyone's shaking with raw, primal fear. A massive horned shadow towers over the town, swallowing the starry night sky in total darkness. Those wide-eyed stares trembled in shock, demanding answers. How in the world could a whole mountain suddenly show up here? A thunderous crash rips through the rain-soaked streets of a German town. A massive impact slams down on the cobblestones, shaking the whole street like it's breaking in half. A massive horned beast made of rock and flesh looms over the rooftops like it's ready to crush the whole city. This is the infamous Beast King, the deadliest aberration that ever ruled the land. It's not a fairy, and it's not some godly being. It's something older, meaner, and way more primal a beast. A brutal, guttural roar bursts from its mouth, blasting through the air like a thunderclap. Tuchera rockets into the chaos, fully aware this situation is spiraling out of control. He hits the ground like he means it, his feet slamming straight into the crack below. He plants his feet and roars, shouting at the terrified civilians to run for their lives. He whips his eyes up at the Titan and realizes it's freaking enormous beyond belief. The lone exorcist stands alone, staring down the Beast King Behemoth, the kind of power that crushes everything. From the rooftop, Kotoru yells his name at the top of his lungs, and the attack finally kicks off. He barks orders for the restraining exorcist to step forward, gripping his specialized weapon and ready to strike. The team slams down a huge net of crackling energy, and it hums like it's about to tear the sky open. The blazing net snaps tight for a split second, trapping the monstrous aberration in its glow. Kotoru snaps into position, eyes locked in, and raises his aim with a grim, unshakable focus. He rips the trigger and nails the beast dead on in the chest. A blinding blast detonates, ripping the darkness open with a flash so bright it feels like the world just cracked. Tuchera explodes into triumphant yelling, convinced they finally got it under control. But Kotoru snaps back with a thunderous shout, telling him it's not over, not even close. Behemoth's giant hand smashes through the energy restraints like they're nothing. The beast snaps that the whole attack hit nothing, and Kotoru's heart breaks over the crushing failure. Tuchero stares, totally thrown off, as the events take a wild, unexpected turn. He stands alone, staring down the Beast King's crushing shadow. Behemoth towers over the tiny, festive town below, staring down like it's ready to crush the celebration. Tutura finally clocks the truth. This rampage isn't random at all, it's moving with purpose, carefully dodging anything that could hurt someone. Kataru spots Tutra's shift and blurts his name in pure panic. Tuchera suddenly felt a strange, unfamiliar power rippling through his veins like it was alive. A chilling vision of himself flashes, and he vows to tear the aberration down with his own blade. A shadow hovers inside a blazing ritual circle, locking in with one brutal goal destruction. The vision thunders that this whole act is all about one thing, his freedom. His teammates stare in disbelief, realizing this is some brand new ritual they've never seen before. Tatra himself is totally baffled, staring at this weird power like, what on earth is happening? Kataru shrieks his name, his face twisted tight with pure, trembling worry. Tuchera's face tightens, and a cold, unfamiliar rage starts to burn behind her eyes. He clenches his weapon and tells himself he has to take this thing down by his own hands. He jabs his palm forward and unleashes a brutal blast of sheer force. The attack detonates on Behemoth's head, blasting apart one of its horns. Rage surges through the Beast King as he snaps back, then he braces to launch a massive pillar like a weapon. The pillar slams down, smashing the earth to rubble, right where he was standing. Tutura clenched his grip on the weapon, bracing like his life depended on it. The impact blasts him clean out of the moment and sends him flying through the air. The whole world erupts into a blinding whiteout, dust and light swallowing everything in an instant. A booming voice slices through the air and shouts the monster's name, Behemoth. A mysterious robe-wearing man locks eyes with him and promises his tale will spread everywhere. He praises his form and declares him the absolute best. Tuchera stares in shock, getting blindsided by this weird, invasive vision. The robe-wearing man grabs his attention and demands he listens, because that beast is no weakling, it's the strong one. He declares loud and fearless that he's the one who created the strongest. He shoots his hand out, announces Toucher as the name, and lays out exactly what his role is. Tutura's yanked back into reality, and they straight up demand she does everything the right way. In the vision, a robed figure cradles Behemoth's face with unsettling tenderness. With the beast's eyes shutting tight, a voice booms out, "The engagement is complete." Just as the announcement cuts off, a tiny scrape flashes across Tutra's hand. A brutal blast of blinding light and raw power detonates from the beast. Tuchera gets blasted backward, flipping end over end through the wild, chaotic air. That sudden, brilliant blast lights up the whole town square in one explosive flash. He crashes down hard into the rubble, while thick smoke erupts and swallows the whole scene. He staggers, eyes darting everywhere, still reeling from that sudden blast. He stares at his hand, baffled as a fresh wound appears out of nowhere. From the shattered ruins, Katora bursts into panic and screams Tutor's name like it's the last thing she can hold on to. He screams a warning to everyone look up because a colossal shadow is dropping from above. Tushe's eyes snap wide with pure terror as he watches the object drop down toward him. A giant chunk of shattered behemoth debris crashes down toward him like a meteor. It slams into the earth with a brutal thunderclap, exploding on impact. Dust crawls off the ground, and the full impact finally comes into view. Tutura's face flares red as he finds himself cradled in someone's arms, safe from everything. A voice can't believe it. Why did the greatsword hesitate right before it swung? A naked, horned woman grips him in bridal style and snarls, demanding to know why he did it. Tuchera can only stare back. His mind goes totally blank, wrecked by sheer shock. She glares down at him, eyes sharp, expression locked and totally not impressed. His brain screamed and short-circuited, completely unable to make sense of what was happening. He finally squeezes out his voice, stuttering in total disbelief at the girl. He thrashes furiously, screaming to know exactly who she is and demanding they let him go. His weak struggles don't stand a chance. He already knows just how insanely strong she is. He snaps into panic because where on earth did this girl even come from? He throws his hands over his eyes and screams that she's completely naked. She flat out declares that his attack was meant to end her life, no doubt about it. She scoots closer, presses him for answers. Why'd he freeze up like that? Was fear the real reason? She stumbles over her words, then forces a shaky, "I'm okay," as she tells him it's fine. He demands to know what in the world she's talking about. She finally spills the truth she's the beast, and her duty isn't optional anymore. She clamps onto his hand with an unshakable grip that won't let go. He gasps, completely floored by her insane strength. She yanks his hand tight and presses it hard against her bare chest. A treacherous face twists tight inside a mask of pure, flustered terror. Her gaze sharpens to a blade as she whispers one deadly command. She claims she's a behemoth, God's own beast, made to be swallowed and devoured. Whoever devours the beast is doomed to keep the whole endless cycle going. She swears this is the natural order of things, and he has no choice. He must step into his final role. He sputters, demanding to know what she's talking about because if she's really a behemoth, then explain it to him. He stares at the fresh ring on his finger while she snaps that aberrations can't talk. She clasps her hands together, staring right at him like, "So are we really just talking? Or does this feel real?" Her eyes lock on him with raw possessiveness as she smiles and claims, "His heart is mine now." She towers over him and growls the same terrifying command again, "Devour me." He craved a normal life, and now he's got a ring on his finger because the strongest beast just became his fiancée. The story cuts to a totally normal apartment building in Japan until you realize that's where the trouble's about to start. Inside, Tutri screams at Katoru that this just can't be possible. He snatches his handler by the collar and barks, "Just look at the problem." Bemis slips in, ducking those horns, and immediately starts complaining that the room is way too narrow. Tuchiri snaps at his handler, Ketoru, shouting that the Japanese ceilings are ridiculously too low. The story snaps into an official report, laying out the full details of the aberration they ran into during their recent operation. The file flashes terrifying images of the monstrous behemoth plus a shot of the operatives Tutra and Ketoru. During the sealing procedure, the creature suddenly twisted and transformed into a humanoid woman. In a top-level meeting, an official can't believe his eyes. An aberration just turned into a human right in front of everyone. A jittery Japanese representative leans in and blurts to his colleague what they should do next, like he's afraid of saying the wrong thing. The International Council is sounding the alarm. This never-before-seen monster has to be locked down right now. Coolly, the American rep points right at Japan and says they're the ones behind all of this. The Japanese official's face breaks into a cold sweat as he replays every brutal detail from the report in his mind. The American representative demands custody, arguing that because a Japanese boy was involved, they have to step in. The Japanese official froze, stammering like a deer in headlights, totally unready for a command that blunt. The American representative locks eyes with him, and his expression won't budge, no mercy, no wavering. Crushed under that brutal pressure, the Japanese official looks absolutely petrified. A tight close-up locks on the American representative's razor-sharp, unblinking stare. A bead of sweat slides off the panicked Japanese official's chin, glowing like it's ready to fall. He finally snaps, bursts out yelling that he'll take full responsibility for the creature. Back in his apartment, Tutra sat there, replaying every last moment that shoved him to this exact point. He's burning with desperation to figure out exactly what went down that night during the strange ritual. He can't stop thinking who the heck is really behind that brutal sealing spell. Staring at his ringed hand, he gets hit with a strange, undeniable pull straight back to her. Bemis shrugs and casually drops the bomb that creatures like her are straight up featured in the Old Testament. Toucher snapped at her, sick of hearing her ramble about turning into a woman and getting eaten. A sharp close-up snaps to the dark, ornate ring now wrapped around Bemis's finger. He stares at her hand, his mind racing. Could that bizarre curse have latched onto her too? Katoru shows up with a calm smile and straight up announces that the new arrangement is coming straight from the higher-ups. He lays down Tutra's brand new mission on the spot. She's officially being crowned as the Exorcist bride. Tuchera erupts in a protest shout, demanding to know if the orders from above are truly unbreakable. Katoru hooks a hand on his shoulder, grinning like he knows for sure they're ready. He grins and waves them off. cheerfully insisting he'll stick around close by just to watch and observe. Katram thinks their situation feels exactly like the opening scene of a fairy tale. Tuchera, beaten and breathless, tells Bemis, "Just do your best on your own for now." Bemis scans the tiny room, eyes sharp, and asks if this is the spot where humans hide. She casually drags her long claws across the wall and rips open a massive gash in one brutal swipe. She grumbles that her horns keep smacking the ceiling because this is her first time ever stepping into a house. Tutura snaps, furious, demanding, "Do I have to smash something every single time I take a step?" She crosses her arms and says it's inevitable because she's the Beast King, and ruin follows her no matter what. Tuchera clenches his teeth. His patience finally snap and warn him they're getting dangerously thin. He snaps at her, yelling that her excuses just aren't good enough. He yanks her shirt, forcing her to remember someone else busted their ass to build this place, too. He snaps at her to clean up the mess, then sit down before her horns start battering the ceiling again. From the balcony, you can't believe it. She actually followed his orders. Bemis sits on the floor, silent and still, watching TV in that busted-up room like it's the only thing holding his world together. As he scrubs the room, Toucher suddenly realizes she's really listening to him. He rips through the wreckage, grumbling about Kataru under his breath, and then leaves him stuck with all of this. He rants that his subjugation mission has somehow morphed into a glorified babysitting gig. Right behind him, Katoru pops up out of nowhere and asks, "Aren't you loving your freedom at home?" Tuchera glares at him, accusing him of turning this whole thing into a full-on surveillance mission. Bemis storms in, clutching an apple bunny, and cuts the moment short as the boy listens to her words. She demands to know when he's finally going to eat her because the look on her face screams that she can't believe how shocked he still is. She brags that her meat's top tier, then yanks up her shirt to show him her thigh and her backside. Totally flustered, Tuchera snatches vegetables from the kitchen like she's racing the moment. He blurts out that in a human village, he'd rather cook for her than sink his teeth into her. He slaps a massive, glistening platter of rice and meat onto the table like it's a victory banner. With a proud grin, Tutura tells the Beast King, "Now scarf it down." Bemis takes her very first shaky bite of human food, like she's daring the world to change. Her eyes snapped wide in an instant, and surprise lit up her face like a spark. She digs in with a ferocious appetite, and Tutra leans in asking, "So is it good?" A grain of rice clings to her cheek, and she tilts her face up to him, cheeks dusted with a shy little blush. Tutura can't help it. His cheeks heat up as he watches her dig into the meal and savor every bite. He leans in and asks if she wants seconds, and she tilts her head up at him like she's been waiting for the answer. A massive mound of empty bowls and plates has slammed onto the tiny table. Tutra bolts for the door, screaming that she devoured absolutely everything in the house. As she peeks out, he grins and promises her, "I'll get you something while I'm out." As he strolls down the street, he lets out a heavy sigh, staring at his life like it slipped out of his hands. Bemis can't stop thinking about that loud kid who's hungry for her, but she still chooses kindness instead. Tuchera grumbles to herself that she's been draining him so hard she might as well be eating him out of house and home. But the second he starts thinking about it, a shy blush creeps back onto his cheeks. He remembers it no matter what she's like, she still hears him out and actually listens. He still remembers the shock on her face when she dug into the meal he made for her. He lets out another tired, frustrated sigh that practically drags through the room. A real little smile cracks across his face as he finally admits she's a total oddball. While shopping, he pauses mid-steps and can't stop wondering what kind of totally weird food glitches could even be his type. A voice behind him snaps, asking if he's out here speeding through errands. He whips around and there's Katoru, flashing the reminder that he said he'd be right nearby. Kataru lifts a tub of ice cream right in front of everyone like, yep, he's way too close for comfort. He asks if Tatura's buying food for Bemis, and the kid immediately snaps, saying she ate everything already. Katora leans in, eyes sharp and thoughtful, soaking up every one of the boy's troubles. Back at the apartment, Tatora corners Katoru with a serious question that won't let up. He throws out the idea that maybe Bemis isn't as awful as everyone's been saying. He can't stop wondering could he actually use this to reach other aberrations too. He leans forward with hope and suggests there might be another way, something beyond plain extermination. Katora's face tightens as he snaps the warning, thinking like that is straight up deadly. He snaps back to Tutra, his enemy's still an aberration, and that thing could end them in seconds. Toucher pushes back, but Kataru won't budge. She's dead certain beasts can snap and go on violent rampages out of nowhere. He warns you once you get bitten, it's already game over, too late to save yourself. Katoru tells him it's okay to be friendly, but he must keep his guard up at all times. She can't stop imagining what would happen the second Bemis ever crawled back to her original colossal size. Tuchera starts protesting all over again, and pure frustration keeps surging higher and higher. He grips his hand tight, swearing she isn't really evil, while the ring on his finger blazes with light. The ring bursts into a blinding glow, jolting him and Kotoru to the core. Tuchera locks eyes on his own hand, utterly stunned by the sudden miracle happening in front of him. Kotoru stares, and his face snaps from serious to full-blown alarm. A synthesized voice cuts in and declares, "Engage failed, your target is over 200 meters out." An alarm screams as the trespasser wobbles in terror. Some weird force has him completely powerless. The voice crackles, retrying, as he freezes in shock, staring at his glowing hand. He yells in sheer panic, demanding answers what's happening and why his own hand is talking. Kotoru stares in total confusion, trying to figure out who the heck the target is supposed to be. Both men blurt out Bemis' name at the exact same time, terror exploding in their voices. A violent tremor rips through the store, knocking them off their feet as they gasp and scream in shock. They sprint out of town toward the mart, while shocked civilians stare around like, what just caused that earthquake? Toucher just stares in shock, stunned as civilians freeze behind him. Then he blurts, "What's happening?" A gigantic beast looms between the houses, grumbling that Japanese homes are way too cramped. The chapter opens on the Beast King's colossal body. He towers over everything, and chaos erupts in his wake. Tuchera and Kotoru tear through the chaos, sprinting as terrified people scramble to escape. They freeze and stare straight up as the behemoth's monstrous bulk looms over them like a nightmare come to life. Tuchera grabbed Kotoru's arm and blurted, in panic, if that ring on his hand could turn her back. Kotoru delivers the crushing news right now. It's flat out impossible. Behemoth blasts out a bone-rattling roar that topples the whole city with sheer raw power. Kotoru lifts her tranquilizer rifle and snaps that the world has thrown her back into a feral state. He lays it out plain. His job is to stop her from destroying the city, no matter what it costs him. He snaps a warning: if she keeps rampaging and risking everyone's lives, it's going to get stopped. They're going to have to brace for the worst complete extermination. The word extermination hit Tutra like a nightmare, and her eyes went wide with pure horror and disbelief. He clenches his teeth, swearing no matter what, that this can't happen. Driven by pure instinct, he rockets off the roof and lands straight on the monster's massive back. Behemoth tilts her head just a little, and a deep guttural growl rumbles out of her chest. Her massive bulk slams into the house, turning it to wreckage as civilians shriek and bolt for their lives. Up on a rooftop below, Kotori screams at him to stop, because if he doesn't, the damage is going to spread fast. He shouts Toucher's name again, gripping his weapon tight as he braces to jump in. Strapped to her back, Tutra panics and frantically searches for a smarter move to survive this. He decides to go for it, even if it looks like a total fool's gamble. With a deep breath ripping through his chest, he unleashes a brutal scream and drops a totally unexpected command that nobody saw coming. Kotoru can only stare from the ground, his face twisted in pure, jaw-dropping confusion. The colossal behemoth slams to a halt, her glowing eyes locked dead ahead. Down on the street, civilians whip around in pure shock, shouting that the monster just dropped to a seat. With a shaking tectonic groan, she drops into place, then crushes the building under the full force of her monstrous weight. Tuchera and Kataru both go completely speechless, as the impossible sudden obedience hits them like a shockwave. Kotoru can't believe her own ears, staring at the boy like, "Wait, did I really hear that right?" He figures they finally stopped her, then he suddenly feels it. Something worse is moving in. Panic snaps across his face the moment he senses a far worse threat closing in. He panics and grabs Tutra's attention, shouting that this isn't finished, then he points straight up at the sky. I gasp as Toucher widens his eyes. Then he follows Kotoru's gesture and cranes his neck up. Ominous dark shadows suddenly crash in all around them on the rooftop. He gapes as a monstrous swarm floods the darkening sky, looming like something out of a nightmare. Kotoru stares in shock because somehow he's certain every single one of them is an aberration, and the sheer number is unreal. He points out that this huge wave has never been reported in the area before. A swarm of grotesque monsters crashes down, led by a cyclops-like beast with a gaping maw that looks ready to swallow the world. A malevolent winged fairy rips through the window of a nearby building with a violent smash. Kataru watches as those creatures swarm in around the now tame behemoth, clustering like something's about to go down. He's convinced she's the reason, like she's somehow summoning them straight to this place. He can't stand it. Reality never plays by the easy, convenient rules that stories swear by. Tuchera's end hits like a hammer. Those aberrations are just too deadly to ignore. A cockatrice monster and a spiky shadow beast crash into the chaotic swarm, and everything goes wild fast. He reels back to Bemis in that apartment, and the realization hits hard. She's not just a threat, she's the danger stalking them. A tide of smaller aberrations bursts in and starts tearing up the whole neighborhood. A vivid memory of Bemis happily devouring the meal he cooked for her suddenly hits his mind. Behemoth's massive arm whips through the air so fast it blazes, slamming a smaller aberration out of the sky. The creature gets obliterated at the last second right before it can launch an attack on a residential building. She clings to the exact words that Boy had thrown at her just a few seconds ago. In a flashback, he demanded she never lay a hand on the human den. He demanded that she stop breaking anything in this place starting right now. From the rooftop, he shouts her name and gapes as she throws herself in front of danger like she's shielding the world. The behemoth unleashes a thunderous roar, not soaked in rage, but blazing with pure defiance as it battles the swarm. She whips that enormous tail in a single, savage swing, sweeping the sky clean of every attacking monster. Her immense power blasts the smaller aberrations out of existence, flinging them apart as they stumble around with nowhere to go. A blinding light erupts from her ringed hand as the voice booms, calling out the return gauge. A system voice blares the news. She's flipping back into her human form right now. In a swirling cloud of dust, Bemis leans in and tells them those creatures didn't attack, they came just to see her. Katoru exhales, relieved, and tells her that now she's driven them off, they're safe for real. Tuchera, cheeks flushed, calls out her name with a relieved, radiant smile that lights up her whole face. Bemis stands there completely naked in the rubble while Tutra rips into her again, screaming about her clothes. He slaps his hoodie over her in a panic, and Katoru just stands there wide-eyed, stunned, totally speechless. Katoru sagged with pure exhaustion, realizing the strange contract was finally, completely done. Bemis, now in a t-shirt, scoffs at the powerful ring like it's pure nonsense. That night, a government official grilled his subordinate about everything that happened after the chaos. He hears that several houses came down in a deadly collapse, but somehow, miraculously, not a single person died. A subordinate blurts out, "Are you really sure Japan is going to take custody of her?" The representative spits out that they've got no choice because this is an order straight from another country. Then it hits him. Depending on how you look at it, this isn't a setback at all, it's a chance. He clenches his fist, and the moment he feels their new unknown aberration power, his mind starts racing with what it could mean. He can't help thinking that if this kid really can master the behemoth, it'd be a massive advantage. His subordinate leaned in and demanded to know what he really meant by control. He grins and throws out a wild plan. What if they make the behemoth fall head over heels? His subordinates just stare him down with dead-faced, totally unimpressed looks. The woman clocks his sweet, girly little hobbies, but he shoots back that romance is a must-have weapon. He explains that if they tame the behemoth this way, the whole fight suddenly becomes way easier to manage. Meanwhile, Tutura steels himself to stop the next rampage just as Kataru steps in and offers to call HQ. A sudden blush spreads across his face as the shock hits these aberrations can actually understand him. Bemis nods and says, "If it's with me, then you can just let me handle it." Totoro remembers Katoru's promise, clinging to hope that this time he'll finally claw his way back to a normal life. Her own subordinates huddle and argue whether forcing her to obey is even on the table. That rep smirks like they've already cracked the code, says the idea's worth betting on, and fires off the next mission. The mission's crystal clear now, make that behemoth fall head over heels for that boy. Later on, an official steps up and declares that every required procedure is finally done. He says a whopping 90 of those battered buildings are already back to normal. Tuchera can't believe it after that total catastrophe. They're not even getting quarantined. The official tells them, "Call me if you need anything," before he and his subordinate finally head out. Tuchera and Bemis stare as they walk off while that kid looks completely, painfully lost. He can't believe the government's hidden power, one that swallows the truth and shrouds everything up. He's convinced that if he can finally talk to her the right way, everything could flip for the better. He whips around and roars at Bemis, demanding she stop wrecking everything right now. The next chapter kicks off with Tutra and Bemis hitting Yokohama's loud, crazy Chinatown, right in the middle of the hustle. A brand new TV special spotlights Chinatown's mouth-watering, crispy-baked xiaolongbao so good it'll make you crave one on the spot. It even spotlights a mouth-watering, sweet and savory Su melon pan straight from a local vendor, with a fluffy, cloud-light Taiwanese Castella cake, an absolute crowd favorite. Tuchera brings up Chinatown, and Bemis's face instantly lights up with pure electric anticipation. She freezes with wide, sparkling eyes, and a ribbon of drool spills from her parted lips. Tuchera's body hits her with a terrifying primal hunger that leaves her completely stunned. Her mind gets totally hooked on the mouth-watering possibilities the human world could offer. Katoru watched from afar, and the moment they set off for Chinatown, curiosity sparked in him. On the apartment balcony, Totoro can't stop wondering if feeding Bemis could finally spark something better between them. He can't shake the memory of her destructive rampage, and he still refuses to believe someone like her is actually evil. Tuchera argues that aberrations might actually have feelings, especially now that he's stepped in as their guardian. He's crushed by the thought that this is his whole lifetime mission, while Kotoru just smirks like it's hilarious. Blushing hard, Tutra shoots his question over, "Was that a bad idea?" and hope sparks in his eyes. Kotoru's phone suddenly buzzes and yanks him out of his deep thoughts about Tuchera's words. Kotoru grabs the call and instantly flips into full-on serious professional mode. He thrusts the phone into the confused Tuchera's hands and lays it out, either explaining the call or telling him what he's supposed to do. That guy in the line, he's the Exorcist branch rep, and he's calling this a top priority emergency. He promises her full support, and he tells a completely stunned Tutra to treat herself well. That rep fires off an enthusiastic pitch, "Get closer," and suddenly Bemis will fall in line. Tutura's cheeks flare red as she realizes that if she really likes him, she might end up protecting the whole town. The representative flat out says her good impression of him is the one thing that will decide everything. With a slick grin, he leans in and pushes Tutura to step up and become someone truly unforgettable to herself. Then the final shocking order hits: take her out on a date and steal her heart. Tuchera can't even get words out. Pure horror slams into him as he realizes the mission they just handed him is downright impossible. In Chinatown's packed streets, Tuchera's mind is basically screaming a date. The loud, jam-packed street only cranks up his panic until it feels like he can't breathe. He's realizing this is way harder than any aberration he's ever fought. He flashes back to a life of non-stop training, with zero room for friends or fun. Wiped out in the crush of strangers, he starts panicking, clueless about what a date is even supposed to look like. He clocks just how stunning she looks and shuts his eyes to the exorcist he arranged to protect her. A caption labels her outfit as "date clothes" made by the Exorcist organization. He steals his own courage, and a fiery blush climbs up his neck as he gears up to act. Bemis sizes him up and thinks, "Whoa, he's seriously handsome." Her judging stare slams the heat straight into his face. His cheeks ignite and his whole body starts to panic. With grim determination, he slams his guidebooks into view and swears he'll be your guide. He proudly announces what he's prepared, and she just stares him down, totally unimpressed by every last effort. He can't sit still, mapping out their route and swearing he'll take her to every unforgettable sight. Just as he points to the landmark, a mouth-watering scent hits her senses and hooks her attention instantly. She strolls off, chasing her instincts, and leaves the stunned Tukura frozen in shock. He bolts after her, desperate to stay on his exact itinerary. From the sea of faces, Kotoru locks in, breathing in that mouth-watering scent drifting from a nearby shop. She flat out shuts him out, refuses to look his way, and keeps her eyes locked on the set. He gets shoved through the crushing crowd, stumbles, and blurts out in pain, fighting to keep his footing as panic takes over. A massive, claw-tipped hand shoots out in a blur, snatching in time to steady them as they stumble and fall. She snags him with effortless precision, and the sheer force in her hands screams exactly what she really is. She calmly tells him he's too slow and too small to push through the crowd. He snaps back, saying the issue isn't his size at all, it's her towering, massive frame. She leans in and tells him, "Hold on to me anywhere," like it's the only answer he needs. She boldly claims her body is his to command, and the crowd gapes in shock. Shame floods his face as he practically pleads with her to stop, frantically pointing out that the whole crowd is locked onto them. He grits his teeth and takes her hand, the only way they can stay close and not lose each other. The crowd huddles close, whispering like detectives, desperate to figure out what kind of twisted bond they really have. He insists that holding hands is the perfect move, but the moment it happens, embarrassment hits him like a truck. The moment their hands lock together, it hit him so hard he could barely stand it. He's completely clueless about how you're even supposed to hold hands without doing it all wrong. Asasa. He tries to steady his nerves, telling himself it's like holding hands with his parents. He swears it's nothing but an escort, just a way to keep her from wandering off and getting lost. Her fingers slid between his, and a jolt ripped straight through his chest. A strange chill hits him, and he silently begs for anyone to come save him. Bemis shrugs off his panic and marvels at Char's enormous, jaw-dropping pan. She grins and dives headfirst into a treasure box packed with mouth-watering snacks. She takes one bite, and instant pure bliss lights up her face. The streets are packed with people soaking up the city's festive buzz, laughing and celebrating like the whole place is alive. Every time they turn their heads, boom, another food stall hits them with mouth-watering displays. She watches the human world in total silence, eyes burning with intense curiosity. Bemis can't stop staring at the human world. Every corner hits him with a brand new rush of sensations. She looks back on her past, and everywhere she shows up, chaos follows, like destruction is her shadow. She knows the moment she ever showed up in her real, monstrous form, she'd never make it through the door. He's left reeling as her sudden, heavy confession hits like a punch to the chest. He finally catches on. She wasn't just rampaging, she was watching, and then she confirms his suspicions. He takes in this new info, and suddenly, he looks at her in a whole different way. Kotoru crouches in hiding, eyes locked on the scene, realizing she wants to help without hurting anyone. Tutor's eyes snap with sudden realization as he stares at her. With a little smile, he tells her she's a good person, just in her own way. His words floor her, then a blazing blush floods her face like a wildfire. He still remembers the moment she followed his orders, refusing to burn down the town. She makes it crystal clear her destructive instincts aren't for innocent people at all. She's hunting down the other hostile aberrations. She looks totally rattled by the conversation, gripping her box of treats like it's her last lifeline. With a sweet, teasing grin, she pinches his cheek like she's daring him to react. She scoots in close, and right there her face turns soft, warm, and undeniably intimate. A soft, nearly bashful smile tugs at her lips as she locks eyes with him. She tells him, "When you grant my wish, you've proved you're the real deal, good at your core." She begs him to take her out again, and Kotoru watches with proud, approving eyes. Kotoru can't stop smiling, convinced their bond is growing exactly the way it should. He thinks this whole pacification plan might actually be the play after all. He's convinced that if he smothers her in affection, Tutura will finally slip and let him seize control. Suddenly, Bemis slams into him with this insanely enthusiastic bear hug that knocks the breath right out of him. Kotora's plan collapses in an instant when he realizes the power has flipped. He's not on top anymore. She grins and teases him for blushing, then pushes for another date until he's left utterly powerless. Kotoru clocks the problem instantly. This twist throws everything off, and the power balance is completely wrong. He decides this wild new development can't wait. He orders it reported to headquarters right now. She asks what's wrong, but the flustered Tutra waves it off, insisting it's nothing at all. Deep in the darkness, two blob-like horrors crouched and watched, whispering her name like a curse. They slam the verdict, she's worthless, and they move in to crush her for good. Their malevolent thoughts pound with one brutal purpose: to kill the behemoth. Chapter 5 begins titled, Report on the Relationship Between Aberrations and Folklore. A brand new theory drops, and suddenly those weird aberrations start looking way too much like myth and legend come to life. They might be unknowingly molding their lives to match those ancient stories. Tutura grumbles because Kotoru's reading material is so dense and tangled it's basically impossible to get through. Kotoru grins and tells him, "I'm obsessed with book stories like these are pure treasure to me." He tells me that myths and folklore aren't just stories, they're packed with something far deeper. He leans in and tells you those ancient tales are packed with battle plans to wipe out those creatures. He argues that diving into them could be the key to surviving Bemis. Kotoru grins and teases, asking if Tutura's starting to see Bemis as a woman. Meanwhile, Bemis is soaking in a peaceful bath, completely clueless to everything being said around them. Kotoru grills him with playful questions about her tastes, and it totally flusters Chagrin. He leans in and tells Tutra point blank getting intel on their target is absolutely critical. Tuchero stares at the picture book and suddenly recognizes it from his childhood. Then, bam! A fresh idea ignites in his mind. Tuchera glares with pure annoyance, muttering through gritted teeth like he can't believe this. Kotoru's book flashes a goblin as he tells you the truth. Aberrations can twist their forms into something completely different. Two unseen shadow aberrations hiss in the dark, claiming disability is an unsolved mystery. As they stare at Bemis splashing in that bath, they can't stop wondering what aberrations really are. Bemis sinks into the steaming hot water, a faint blush blooming across her cheeks. Out of the swirling steam, two shadow blobs suddenly rip into existence right above her. Two goofy-looking monsters burst through the door, screaming they're here to kill Bemis. A thunderous crash jolts Kotoru and Tuchera, snapping his attention from the other room. Tutura hears a racket coming from the bathroom and her mind instantly races what on earth is going on in there. Bemis bursts into view, wrapped in a towel, and she's got her tiny attackers trapped in her grip. Tuchera and Kotoru freeze in place, staring with sheer disbelief at the wild, unbelievable sight. In a rush, Bemis missteps, loses her balance, and drops hard right onto a Tutra. He's slammed flat beneath her, pinned down hard, and all he can do is groan at the shock of impact. Pinned beneath her weight, he grimaces and complains that she's impossibly heavy. He fights frantically, face twisted into a mask of effort and raw embarrassment. At last, he rips his hoodie toward her and screams for her to get dressed right now. Katoru squints at the strange creatures and realizes they're goblins, but ones he's never seen before. Tuchera freezes in shock and blurts out, "These don't look anything like the ones in the files." A fresh book entry spills that today's goblins are just looked at as tiny, wicked little imps. Katora catches it instantly. Sure, they barely ever strike people, but this time their sights are locked on Bemis. Bemis's face tightens the moment she confirms it. Those aren't just people, they're aberrations. Rage is boiling in her as she fumes that they dare drag the boy into their attack. Her claws shoot out as she snarls, promising them brutal mercy will never come. She threatens, "Touch the king's territory and you'll live to regret it." She swears she'll make them regret everything before she wipes them out for good. Tutra clings to a promise he swore to himself never, ever hurt anyone again. He remembers Bemis restraining her overwhelming power, holding it back with all her might to shield the human town. He lunges in, clamps onto her arm, and roars at her to stop right there and wait. Bemis stares down at him, shock snapping across his face at the sudden move. He yanks her to a halt, gripping her arm tight enough to stop her lethal strike cold. He tells her, "Leave it to me," and you can practically see the determination blazing across his face. He blurts out that he's got something to try, like a fresh idea is sparking right in his head. Bemis stared at him, utterly lost for words, while her rage stalled for a heartbeat. Tuchera blazes with urgency, demanding Katoru hand over the book of lore right now. He yanks the massive book from its place, buzzing with readiness to slam his brand new theory into the real world. He scrambles page by page, panic surging as he hunts for the goblin entry. Katoru's words about folklore holding the key to victory keep hammering in his head, like a promise he can't shake. The book lays it out. Those ancient legends are packed with battle strategies to wipe out creatures like that. He keeps flipping pages at full speed, locked in, determined to hunt down the answer hidden in the text. His eyes flare with pure triumph as he blurts out, "I found it." He whips around to Bemis, thrusts out his hand and promises her, "This will work." He screams at them to scatter and hurls shiny things across the floor just to mess with them. Goblins stare in disbelief, and their bloodthirsty rage vanishes on the spot. They snap out and shout, hooked by the litter in their faces, and terrified the next second will be the one that ends them. Katoru's jaw drops in shock as the goblins obsessively scrub and clean like they're possessed. He just stares, completely stunned, trying to figure out why they suddenly decide to start tidying up out of nowhere. Tutura whips around to him, cheeks blazing, beaming with pride as it spills the folklore it knows. And right then, he starts spilling the shocking truth about these special goblins. He claims they started out as little helpful household fairies. The picture book says they're basically brownie sprites who can't wait to jump in and do every chore like it's showtime. He grins at Katoru and declares the book's the answer right on cue, just like he promised. The little creatures keep clawing through the chaos, scrubbing furiously and chirping non-stop as they work. Tuchera gasps in disbelief, then blurts out that the room is spotless, like it happened in the blink of an eye. To reward their grind, he tosses them a gigantic rice cracker. Goblins rush the cracker in a frenzy, and their tiny faces light up with pure, unfiltered joy. Tuchera and Bem stared as the strange scene unfolded, then the danger crumbled into nothing. He flings his arms into the air, yelling at the top of his lungs that his plan nailed it perfectly. He glances at Bemis, and the tension slips away as a fresh understanding lights up his face. He steps up and promises the goblins, "From this day on, nobody touches you, you're safe." He whips around to Bemis and tells her to stay right here. No worries, not a single one. His words hit her straight in the heart, and she gazes back at him with those soft, glowing eyes. A surge of raw emotion crashes over her as she finally lets his kindness sink in. A rapid montage of every moment they shared blasts through her mind like a punch to the chest. She realizes this kid isn't just talking, he's hunting her deepest wish and trying to make it real. Tutura gets completely thrown off by that intense, silent stare of hers. She scoots closer, snuggles in, and nuzzles his shoulder like she's daring him to notice how much she cares. He thrashes in pure embarrassment, yelling at her as he demands what the hell she's doing. She swears it's nothing, then tells him dinner's still not ready. Tuchera's cheeks light up, she's totally flustered, still reeling from the way she just blurted out that sudden burst of affection. He can't stop asking why those other aberrations keep zeroing in on Bemis like they're obsessed with killing her. He can't stop wondering if her whole existence is nothing more than a cruel inconvenience for a good person. Somewhere far off, the representative stares at the exact scene playing out on a monitor, locked in. A mysterious woman snaps at him that he's too soft, then warns him the girl is nothing but dangerous. He says it looks like everything's going great, but she doesn't buy it for a second. She swaps the feed to a captured cockatrice, then declares they'll tame it. She warns that aberrations come with deadly powers humans can't even handle. With a single button press, the captured creature jerks and thrashes in pure, gut-wrenching agony. Then it detonates on its own, bursting into a choking cloud of smoke and flying wreckage. The screen erupts into a blur of movement as the creature gets wiped out on the spot, gone in an instant. Another feed flashes. Watch this new aberration get obliterated in a tidal wave of sheer power. The creature's head detonates like a bomb, proving her point in the most brutal way violence works. A new warrior snaps into position, ready to unleash a deadly strike that could end everything in one blow. Another exorcist steps in like a storm held back, calmly saying they've got to be properly subjugated. The woman grabs the representative's attention and orders him to borrow her children's power right now. She dubs her crew the professionals of aberration slaying, and makes them sound like the cruelest unit on the battlefield. In Bemis's nightmare, German villagers start screaming like crazy because the monster is back again. Her massive foot slams down on the house, and a woman screams in pure, helpless despair. The villagers scatter in pure terror as her monstrous form wrecks everything totally by accident. A gut-deep scream rips through her like, "This is wrong, stop, I don't want to destroy anything." She watches them sprint away, mouth tight in silent panic, praying they won't vanish again. She's left to rot in total silence, just one lonely monster drifting through a massive, empty void. Bemis jolts awake with a sharp gasp. Her nightmare is still burned into her mind. She crawls into bed and grips a sleeping Tutura with white-knuckle intensity. Rain drums down outside the apartment window, turning the quiet morning into pure atmosphere. Tutura writhes in her grip, screaming for her to finally let him go. He grumbles about the timing, demanding to get out there on his own. He jabs a finger outside and tells her he's got to run off for neighborhood cleanup duty. She warns him if he dares to leave her side, she'll snap back into her true form. Outside, the rain keeps pounding the apartment complex, steady and relentless. Kataru bursts in, clutching an umbrella stuffed in a bookstore bag, grinning like he's got the whole day planned. Kataru bursts in, clutching a bookstore bag, eyes wide as Japan's overflowing stacks of stories blow his mind. After charging up the rain-soaked stairs, he beams at Bemis from the balcony above. Bemis, ringed by her little goblin minions, slouches on the railing like nothing's exciting her. Kataru tilts her head up, shocked seeing her like this is such a rare sight it feels almost impossible. Bemis lets out an annoyed sigh, flicks her tail, and demands to know why he's even here. Down the street, Tutura dutifully steps in and helps her elderly neighbor power through the neighborhood cleanup. Kataru stares down at the chaos below, and a sharp, calculating seriousness locks onto his face. Bemis stares down at Tuchira and realizes she's waiting silently right there for him to come back. Kataru rubs his chin, and the more he thinks, the more it feels like this is going to blow up in the best way, too good to be true. He fires off the thought in his head, this has to be worthy of a full-on celebration. Bemis shoots him a quick look, her face totally unreadable, while she catches every word of his thought. Her curiosity goes nuclear. She whips around and demands to know what's in the bag. Kataru grins and holds up a shoujo manga, practically glowing as he tells everyone it's a story he genuinely loves. Bemis snatches the book with sharp suspicion, muttering that something feels dangerously wrong. Kataru flashes a soft smile and steers the conversation, prodding Bemis to spill her story. He blurts out whether her tale is destined to turn into some legendary myth. His eyes sparkle with academic curiosity as he leans in and admits he's dying to hear her side of the legend. Bemis cuts her off and flat out says she has no story to tell. Kataru keeps pushing forward, adamant he wants a story so legendary it'll be remembered forever. She drops her gaze with a heavy sigh, whispering again and again that there's really nothing left to say. A flash of the past hits hard every time she comes near a human village. She smashes things to pieces. She admitted it was pure curiosity about their culture, and Kataru's head instantly spun with confusion. In her monstrous form, she still can't forget the moment her careless body crushed homes to splinters. Every village she touched left the land drained and dead, just a barren wasteland in her wake. With every step she took, she tore through everything so people crowned her the Beast King. Her gaze brims with a centuries-old heartbreak, the kind only a soul living alone that long could carry. Then she ends her tale with a chilling promise after that day. Nobody ever dared come close again. She was a lone monster power roaring inside her with nobody at her side to back her up. Her eyes lock onto Tutura down below, and Kataru hangs on her every reaction. Rushing into the moment, he grinned at her old man and shared the umbrella with her, laughing together as the rain poured down. Kataru locks onto a plan, and it starts clicking into place in his mind. He leans in and tells her that Tutura has rewritten the very core of her existence. He tells them that Tutura is a rare human, and she's been actively guarding her with everything she's got. Bemis watches her face soften the moment his words finally land. Kataru leans in and tells her she isn't some lonely beast anymore. She's right where she belongs in her everyday routine. Bemis stared at him, her long tail flicking like a heartbeat, confusion roiling inside, hope blazing right behind it. Kataru stared at her, and his face gave away nothing. He tells her, now that Totura's gone from your side, you've got to be feeling lonely. Bemis stares around, totally confused, like the word itself has left him stranded, lonely and questioning everything. Kataru grins and tells her that unlike before, Tuchera is finally right by her side now. But Tuchera's laughter still hits her like a flashback, crystal clear from that Chinatown date where they were both smiling. Kataru keeps going and tells everyone that Tuchera is finally starting to think about her own happiness. A soft blush blooms across Bemis' cheeks as she drops her gaze. Right then, Tuchera slams the last of his work together, then snaps his gaze up toward the balcony. Daily life and happiness snap into focus in Bemis' mind as memories flash like sparks. Tucher's whole face lights up. She cracks a massive, joyful grin, waves like crazy, and shouts her name. Her eyes snap wide like something inside her finally clicks into place. Tucher tells them the rain's finally stopped and hypes the idea of heading to the supermarket. A wild montage of their memories crashes through her head as she starts picturing him coming. That scattered collage of memories snaps into place, and suddenly a brand new, explosive feeling crashes over him. She tightens her fist, and a surge of raw power bursts out like lightning. With a bright fang grin flashing, she laughs, full of joy and steel. I'm coming. Kataru jolts with a sharp chill, staring at the air like he can't believe the power he just felt. Tucher spots Kataru and shoots him a question, want to tag along with them. He tells Kataru, be right back, then strides off with an excited Bemis. Kataru tries to shove the weird feeling aside, insisting to himself it's all in his head. He stares at his ring, and as the memories hit, he realizes it mirrors the target's emotions the moment they change. Bemis suddenly feels that something enormous is transforming him from the inside out. It's absolutely breathtaking, and still, it creeps under your skin like a nightmare you can't wake up from. A razor-sharp whip of linked plates snaps through the air, slicing anything in its path. It rockets straight at the clueless Tutora, like nothing in the world can stop it. A panicked woman's voice tears through the air, screaming a warning boy. Bemis snaps into action, her eyes narrowing hard as the danger closes in. Tutura shrieks her name and clamps down on him with her clawed hand. She yanks him behind her and takes the hit herself, letting the weapon slam into her arm instead. A woman touches down with effortless grace, and she can't believe how shockingly agile that huge creature is. Kataru's stunned somehow. That attacker actually got Bemis wounded. Tuchera, hiding behind Bemis, snaps and demands to know exactly who the attacker is. Sun Hanshi leans in and snaps. Did you really forget your senior's face already? She declares her creed aberrations must be wiped out at once before they can hurt anyone. Trembling, terrified stares and Senpai's wide-eyed disbelief, the whole room frozen as he stammered. Hachi levels her weapon and demands to know why he's here. She snaps at him, furious that he dared speak to his superior like that. She proclaims it's time to reset him straight from the very start for his re-education. Kataru just stares, baffled, because he's convinced she got sent on a completely different mission. Hachi blurts out, "Who in the world summoned this annoying nuisance?" She strides in and declares herself the Exorcist Subjugation Squad's top-ranked captain. That name hits the other exorcists like a thunderclap, the legendary Sanhanshi, straight from the myths. Bemis throws himself in front of Tutura, shielding him as this brutal new enemy closes in. Hachi's hand snaps up, and the ring on her finger flashes, catching the light like a warning. She rockets forward, her face set in a chilling, predatory stare. She creeps in uncomfortably close, presses a kiss to his cheek, and swears she won't hurt him again. She snatches his hands and fires back that his resolve is way too flimsy to stand. With a menacing grin, she snaps that his re-education is about to kick off. Bim brutally swats Hanshi's hand away from Tutura. Tutura blurts, "What's that woman?" while Kataru stares at an alarm like it's about to blow. Kataru locks eyes with the terrifying woman and declares, "Your son Hanshi." Elsie throws it out there that she's a top-tier exorcist and she absolutely loathes aberrations. Tutra surges forward, shoves Bemis back, and snaps at her to stay down. He steels himself, attempts a proper greeting to his senior, and bluntly asks whether headquarters reached out to her. She nods and tells them she's already heard all about Bemis straight from the higher-ups. With the sharp flick of her blade, she cuts the order down instantly like it means nothing to her. She snaps with rage, firing off one hard question: why did he agree to take that mission? Tucher gasps in shock as her attack whips past his face by a hair. Katori snaps at her to stop right now, blasting the warning that this is a quiet residential area. Tutra begs her, voice cracking, to wait. Just listen to him for one more second. He tries to hammer home the point that Bemis is an ultra-rare anomaly, exactly the kind they've been reporting from up top. Hanshi shoots him a look full of icy disdain and asks, "So what now?" Tuchera panics, blurting out that he even managed to win the goblins over and become their friend. He swears he's got everything under control and that it's all fine, no alarms, no panic. Tuchera plants herself between them and flat out declares they don't need to subjugate the behemoth. Bemis watches the boy and figures he's clumsy, but damn, there's kindness in every move. He insists that if they can dodge a fight, then that's the absolute best-case scenario. He blurts out to his senior just as she's about to unleash those lethal ribbon-like blades. Hanti whips her gaze back at him, her face colder than steel as she fires off the question, so Bemis bursts in and declares beasts get zero mercy, they must be wiped out right now. Hanshi warns if those aberrations still have a will, the end is already locked in. She drives past them on a full lunge, yelling at Tutra to get out of her way as her scream cuts the air. Bemis shoots forward to slam himself in front of the strike, right as Tutura cries out her name. She snaps at the boy to step back, then points out Hanshi's blade like it's a cursed weapon. Hanshi stops mid-breath and realizes this beast is weirdly simple to read for something so wild. Bemis flat out declares that the world has always run on one brutal rule: the strong eat the weak. Tutra remembers her name, then flashes into rage, tries to make him swallow her whole, and swears she'll never forgive him. A predatory grin sparks across Bemis' face as she lays claim to the devouring side. Shocked out of her mind by what she just said, Tutura can only shriek in protest. "Don't use your human voice! Don't!" Hanshi screams, and then the furious attack crashes down like thunder. Bemis clenched her teeth and braced herself, ready for that devastating hit. The blades slam into her, blasting out shockwaves and hurling debris in every direction. From the rooftop, Tutura watches with a grim stare and swears that if survival demands it, they'll even copy humans. Hanshi squares up, ready to unleash another blow, and this time he's determined to finish it before time runs out. Tutura suddenly realizes with pure dread that everything has tipped into a full-on crisis. He shouts her name, and urgency bursts through every word. Vimus locks eyes with him, her face set like she's about to strike. He thrusts his hand out, closing the distance to her. His palm slams against her chest, snapping the air into a shockingly close connection. Hanshi gasped hard, stunned by the twist he never saw coming. The two stand in a razor-thin fighting stance on the shattered rooftop, ready to explode into battle. Bemis yanks Tutra behind her, shoving him out of harm's way for his own safety. She swears she'll stop anyone from ever laying a finger on him. Tutra braces with his staff as Bemis snaps, declaring the boy is hers. With a thunderous roar, she declares, "He's mine." A wild surge of power ignites inside him as he roars, and the restraints finally snap free. Hanshi can't believe it, right? As one of her squad mates yells at her, the transformation hits her like a punch to the chest. Tuchera slams the news he's switched sides, and Beast King Bemis is now his ally. Bemis slips into annihilation mode, and her armor bursts into existence around her in an instant. She unleashes a wild, joyful roar, brimming with battle-ready fury. She launches a lightning-fast punch that lands like pure destruction. Tuchera can only stare, frozen in shock as her overwhelming power crashes down. Blonde Elsie yells a warning at her older senior, screaming like her life depends on it. Haunt barely manages to block the blow, her eyes snapping wide with pure shock. Elsie rockets into the scene, desperate to step in and stop the fight. She yells at her senior again, her voice trembling with pure panic. A colossal burst of energy explodes in midair, blasting the fight to a complete stop. Hanshi's squad burst onto the scene, grimly saying they barely dodged the blast. Tutra clocked them instantly as Japan's exorcist branch. The man introduces himself as A, and the girl as B, both treated like his direct subordinates. Hanshi glares hard, and you can tell her pride got slammed the moment that interruption hit. It's like they're drawing a hard line in the sand. No matter what orders come down, they can't let a rampage tear through the city. He stares at a sign that reads "Chaos Away," while a TV drama crew keeps filming like nothing's wrong. Bemis gets the news they've confirmed a mysterious surge in her power. He blasts the confused crowd with a memory-wiping device, erasing what they just saw in an instant. Drops the bombshell that the Japan branch will take Tuchera, and Hanshi's fury erupts like a wildfire. As they drag him away, Tutura shoots Bemis a fast apology right before he's taken off. Bemis stands there, staring into the unknown, trying to figure out what in the world just happened. She vows that if he keeps shielding her, then she'll rip through fear and guard him right back. She stares at her hand and realizes her body is suddenly way easier to control, like something inside her just clicked into place. Tutura whips around, staring at her new form, and blurts out that it's absolutely incredible. He grins, finally understanding he can throw down and still keep collateral damage off the board. Bemis watches him, and a soft, knowing smile spreads across her lips. She tightens her fist, and in that moment, she's certain this twist isn't scary at all. It's actually a good sign. Tuchera declares his new mission protect everyone no matter what without harming a single soul, and Bemis nods along. A hush settles under a sky packed with dark clouds. Elsie corners Kataru and asks him straight, so the guy traveling with Hanshi is his boss, right? She pleads with Kataru to cooperate, cracking and admitting she's fully, no turning back on Bemis' side now. Elsie leans in and confesses that she's seriously started to care for Tutura. A flashback hits hard. Hanshi slumps in a private room, crushed by despair. She lets out a heartbreaking cry, screaming Toucher's name like it might save her. She's furious and heartbroken like that giant aberration woman just ripped him out of her life and stole everything she held dear. She snaps into new tears, flooded by the memory of how adorably he looked when he was just 6. Right now, Kataru leans in and tells Elsie flat out that her way of showing affection is totally off base. Kataru admits it. He's honestly relieved they stepped in, because there's no way he could juggle this mess alone. His phone suddenly buzzes, and a convocation notice lights up the screen. He and Elsie suddenly clock it. This is an emergency summons blasting in from the Japan branch. A crushing dread slams into Kataru, and his gut screams that something terrible is about to happen. Far out on the open sea, a humble fishing boat gets slammed and battered by waves that feel downright unreal. The fishermen whip into panic, staring at the water like, did we just smash into a reef out here somehow? The captain roars that the rudder won't budge, and his mind races what on earth is going on. A massive wave catapults the tiny vessel into the violent storm sky, blasting it into the night like a rocket. A colossal, pitch-black landmass claws its way up from the stormy depths of the sea. The chapter page throws you right into the chaos. Bemis and Tutra are locked in, ready to smash into their next battle. A military vessel slices through the waves, blazing toward the emergency without hesitation. During a briefing, Kataru lays it out. Every rescued sailor swears they saw the same mysterious island. On deck, Kataru steps in fast, trying to break the tension snapping between Bemis and Hanshi. Hanshi Seaths seethed with disgust, forced to stand in the same room as that filthy aberration. Bemis shoots a furious glare back and growls that she can't stand that woman. Elsie snaps at Tutra that the captain is at it again, bickering with Bemis. A lightning bolt thought hits the cheerful girl, and it sparks like a firework in her mind. She pitches a get-to-know-you session for everyone, pushing hard to spark teamwork. Hanshi and Bemis are left totally speechless, staring at the wild suggestion like it came out of nowhere. Elsie strides up to Bemis and tells him straight up, knowing your allies could make or break everything. Then she whips around to Hanshi and teases like, bet the captain's dying to talk to Tautra. Tuchera freezes at the claim, and Hanshi explodes in pure fury. Elsie shoved him toward Hanshi and demanded he dump Bemis with her, then go talk. He sputters in panic, flustered to the max, demanding to know why it has to be him. Elsie leans in and drops the bombshell she knows the captain's been freaking out over him for days. Tuchera's jaw drops. LCTs are so high up, and yet they won't even tell the truth. Elsie keeps going, saying that even the captain who never shows emotion is drowning in thoughts. Kataru and Elsie team up, scheming to shove a reluctant Tutra into befriending his senior. Elsie playfully scolds Kataru for trying to dump that brutal task on her. Tutura feels completely stranded and baffled, wondering what he's even meant to do next. A peaceful tropical island suddenly rises out of nowhere, and the air fills with a gasp of total disbelief. A neon beach ball gets launched with a huge smack, blazing up into the bright blue sky like it's got somewhere to be. Elsie squeals with playful delight as she wiggles around in her frilly black bikini top. She yanks her matching bikini bottom into place with a confident snap. Elsie throws her hands up like, let's go, as the teammate beside her drops into a relaxed, chill mood. Bemis stands at the water's edge, rocking a sleek, dark one-piece swimsuit like she owns the waves. She drifts through the water with total peace, tongue lolling out as she soaks in every blissful second. With a bright, joyful laugh, Elsie dashes forward and blasts Bemis with a splashing wave of water. One of her squad mates starts poking Bemis' tail like it's a joke, and Bemis just stands there, utterly baffled and confused. The whole crew crowds together, popsicles in hand, then they crunch down on 2 at once like it's a challenge. Tuchera bolts away from the fun, snarling curse after curse at his maddening situation. His teammates sink back in, calling this place paradise, while he grits his teeth and snaps about his terrible luck. They ask why he won't play on his first beach trip, and he snaps at them like it's the last thing he wants to hear. They grin and joke that someone's got to replace him, and he snaps back calling them absolute fools. They're scrambling to figure out how to convince the ferocious Captain Hanshi to join their side. Everyone feels bad for him. He can't even enjoy the beach, so they step up and volunteer to take his place. They demand Bemis play beach ball, and Toucher's rage erupts the second he does. Bemis just stares at her torn-up boy, silent as a storm, expression packed with deep thoughts. Tuchera turns and leaves by himself, because admitting his senior is pure chaos. He trembles as her ironclad rule crashes back. Every aberration has to be wiped out completely. But he can't forget that forever ago moment when he first teamed up with her squad. Her back, planted between him and danger, felt immovable like safety itself. He figures that if her aberrations were gone, she wouldn't be nearly as terrible as a senior. He spots her alone by the rocks and, with nerves screaming, he calls out her name. He immediately jerks back, nerves exploding under her intense, familiar stare. There she is, he blurts out a stammer, completely rattled by her icy, unshakable calm. He leans in and tells her, "We've got to get along because if we don't, trouble is coming for all of us." She fires off, "Why are you with that aberration?" And he stammers, I mean, is it really okay?" With a hopeful smile, he leans in and asks her if she really trekked all this way just to see him. Hachi gets blindsided out of nowhere, and a shy blush blooms across her cheeks. She can't believe it. Why would he even think that, when his reaction hits her so hard? He spots the opening, locks in, and pushes his advantage right now. Hachi's totally thrown off his sudden boldness has him visibly rattled. She can't shake the thought that Elsie planted these wild ideas in his head. He smirks like, no way, she's actually kind of cute when she's like this. He praises her strength, and for once, his push to win her over looks like it might actually work. She snaps back hard, slinging insults that he's soft for acting like a burden, and it throws him into an even bigger panic. She's practically glowing after all this time. She finally gets to talk to him again. His playful grin instantly disappears, and real worry slams into his face. He blurts out that her revealing swimsuit is basically practically naked. She can't help but smile at the memory of his bratty defiance, still thinking how ridiculously cute he used to be. Suddenly, her sweet smile flips into a terrifying grimace that screams pure helpless fear. A towering serpent snaps forward to swallow her whole, and he yells her name like it can stop the end. She gasps, eyes stretched wide with pure shock as she snaps back to the present. She jerks back from him, and fear still clings to her, shaking her to the core. He yanks her arm hard, panicked, begging her to tell him what's wrong. He yanks his shirt back, and the light catches the scars sprawled across his chest like a drawn-out map. She leans in and asks, "So you got these new scars while we were apart?" She presses him on why he's standing beside that aberration, but he won't budge. He swears Bemis isn't evil. He admits those aberrations are what wreck them, and that every time they show up, people die. But he flat-out swears he'll break the killing cycle once and for all. He's ready to put his life on the line to protect everyone. Yes, even that dangerous aberration, Bemis. He stares at her and says he won't let his own senior die either. She glances aside, and the moment her face softens, she fires off, calling him naive. She swears he's been nothing but sweet from the start, and that he hasn't changed a bit. She clamps onto his shoulder with a rock-solid grip, like there's no turning back. She leans in with grave seriousness and tells him he doesn't understand a thing. She warns that if she's ignored, her naive ideals will get innocent people slaughtered by the aberrations. That beast will rip through the innocent without even blinking. From across the distance, Bemis keeps his eyes on their heated talk, worry tightening in his chest. Hachi storms in and swears that some things can only be saved by tearing them down. Sensing something's about to go wrong, Bemis shouts at the boy, warning him before disaster hits. Concern flickers across her face, then bam, her eyes go wide with shock and alarm. She explodes into a dead sprint, tearing across the sand straight toward them. Katoru grabs Elsie's attention and demands answers, but Elsie just looks completely lost, like she has no idea what's happening. Elsie peers out over the water, stunned. Had that island always been there, or did it just appear? Hanshi suddenly feels the earth beneath her feet slam with a terrifying tremor. She feels it, an eerie, ominous presence barreling toward them at breakneck speed. Katora stares at the reef's pale outline and realizes it's sitting there way too out of place. He and Elsie lurch to a stop, gulping in air as horror dawns across their faces. A mysterious island erupts from the ocean with a massive splash that shakes the water into chaos. The earth splits wide open as the Hanshi screams erupt, blasting his name through the air in pure terror. Tuchera gets yanked into the chaos, sputtering in pure shock as a brutal tsunami crashes in out of nowhere. Hanshi screams his name one more time, clawing at the air as he gets dragged under. He gets yanked under the wild, churning waves of the churning sea, where the water fights back. Down in the darkness, a massive, many-eyed mouth swings wide and tries to swallow him whole. Old mariner legends swear that on those endless voyages, a monstrous serpent would rise from the deep and seize the horizon. Once it broke the surface, people often mistook it for some tiny, untouched island on the map, like it had always been hiding out there. The name was whispered through legends, and each new witness reshaped it like living truth. The mighty sea serpent roars, its gargantuan body swallowing the horizon and taking over the entire ocean. Elsie shrieks, her face turning deathly pale as horror hits her in full force. The other squad members just stood there, mouths moving in panic, whispering that he'd been swallowed whole. Kataru freezes on the spot, completely shell-shocked as that sudden catastrophe erupts out of nowhere. Hanshi yanks her blade free, screams like thunder, and demands he live up to her name with pure, furious resolve. Bemis thrashes in the surf, screaming for the boy with pure desperation. She bursts up from the water like a war goddess, roaring at the beast, "How dare you!" A blinding blast of pure energy tears out of her mouth and slams straight into the monster. Hanshi rockets across the squirming, fleshy backs of those writhing creatures. She rips into Bemis, screaming for him to wait because she's still charging headfirst into her reckless assault. Bemis snaps back that the kid is inside, and he rips into Hanshi as an idiot. Hanshi insists it'd be pointless to get eaten too, and Bemis snaps at her to stop overthinking and start thinking. Tendrils coil around Bemis as he realizes Tutra's life hangs by a thread. Hanshi yanks her back and barks that any sudden move will crank the danger up even higher. The captain lays it out flat, confirming Tutra's status is her #1 mission. She mutters, stunned that this mere exorcist actually survived. A sudden blast of sound snaps her to a halt, and she shouts into the chaos. Then he catches sight of a hand and yells, "Boy!" Hanshi spots it immediately and blurts out to Bemis, completely stunned. She can't stop staring at how deep their bond really runs, but relief crashes over her the moment she realizes he's alive. Tuchera bursts into view, tears of pure joy pouring down his face as he roars, "I'm alive!" With relief flooding his face, Hanshi begs the attacks to stop. Bemis challenges her timing, but Hanshi slams back hard. She's wrong, and you don't have to hurt aberrations to handle them. From deep inside the beast, Tutra blurts that he had somehow been tossed right into its stomach. He drops a shocking truth, and then the room hits him with horror. Survivors lie all around him, unconscious and still. Bemis and Hanshi freeze in shock because the missing fishermen aren't gone at all. They're trapped inside the monster. Hanshi spits out a curse as he realizes a direct strike is off the table, while Bemis fires back that she'll come rescue them. Tutra blurts out, desperate, "Please, can we take it down without harming it?" Hanshi laughs off the reckless plan, but Bemis just smirks like it's no big deal and takes the impossible challenge head on. Bemis clenches his resolve and hurls himself toward the churning sea. A colossal blast erupts in the water as she launches into her fearless rescue attempt. Bemis barrels through the stormy waves like a streak of pure focus and unstoppable power, faster than the eye can track. Hanshi's jaw drops as he watches the aberration glide with jaw-clenching precision and pure, elegant grace. With the fury of a living torpedo, Bemis rockets straight toward the massive sea serpent. She smashes into the creature's flank like a battering ram, driving it back with raw, crushing force. Hanshi shrieks, blasting Bemis as a beast for that reckless, earth-shaking charge. Bemis shrieks through the mist and tells her, "Hold on just a moment." She insists she has to move now because that boy is straight up begging her for help. Hanshi's jaw drops. This monster isn't battling for its own survival at all. She admits it to herself, she really thought Bemis was just some mindless monster. In a rare moment of calm, Hanshi's ironclad beliefs start cracking right in front of him. Sensing the change, Bemis snaps to the captain's attention and declares she's got a plan. She swings out a one-time truce, tell Hanshi to save Tutra, and she'll follow every order she gives. Bemis stands her ground, eyes pinned on Hanshi, hanging on the captain's decision like it's about to change everything. Hanshi spits out that she hates the beast, and her thoughts clash as the new reality crashes down on her. She figures that if Bemis is really worried about someone else, then maybe, just maybe, she's the one who deserves his trust. With rage blasting in his chest, Hachi snaps and agrees to place a bet on the aberration just this once. Bemis moves to seal the truce, her cheeks dusted with a faint, unreadable blush. The storm-battered sea roars and churns as their wild, impossible plan finally kicks off. Hanshi lunges forward, clamps onto one of the serpent's monstrous heads, and yanks its attention his way. She snaps at Elsie, yelling for her to set up the ritual now for their perfectly timed strike. Her ribbon-like energy blades snap around the serpent's head, cinching it tight like a deadly grip. From the shore, Hanchi thunders, screaming Tutura's name like nothing else matters. With a wild grin, she blurts it out like she's begging Bemis, then she grabs it and shakes it hard. Tutura lifts his head from where he's planted, staring at everything with a confused, dopey look like he's just been hit with a total brain melt. Bemis fires a quick look of doubt at the weird command, then the realization hits, blazing in her eyes as dawn. She lands a thunderous body blow, and that punch sends the colossal beast reeling. The sea serpent shrieks in agony and gags up everything it swallowed, splashing it straight back into the ocean. On the shoreline, the two male operatives lock eyes and marvel at a jaw-dropping, brutal strike. Hachi shrieks the last command, pushing Elsie to move right now. A brutal surge of electricity crashes through the sea serpent, jolting it into a helpless, stunned collapse. Hanchi screams, shouting for him by name, right as the waves hurl him through the air. Stare at the shore and watch him wrench out that saved gasp, because for once, everyone's safe. He crumples on the sand, completely wiped out after everything he just survived. Bemis rockets to her side, and the moment he gets there, she blurts his name with worry stamped across her face. She slips her hand into his, eyes turning tender as she murmurs his name, boy. She yanks him into a crushing, desperate hug, and the second she feels he's okay, pure relief hits her like a wave. Toucher's relief explodes into worry the moment he suddenly remembers the sea serpent. The giant beast still out cold heaves ashore like a nightmare, and that colossal threat just won't let the beach go quiet. Elsie insists it's too dangerous to go, just as Totoro realizes extermination is the only fate left. He's torn in half, refusing to swallow the truth that the creature has to die. He mutters that he won't kill it, and Kotoru watches the whole dilemma unfold in real time. As she comes closer, she can't look away from that weird healing mark on his face. She ponders it isn't just a bruise, it's proof that something bizarre is awakening inside her, like a brand new power is finally showing up. Vemus strides straight toward the beach serpent, her goal locked in and crystal clear. She slaps a hand onto its head and vows she'll shut it down without ending its life. Hanchi's eyes widen as this totally impossible, cocky claim hits like a shockwave. Vemus' ring bursts with eerie, ethereal glow as she murmurs the command to ignite the engagement. A cold, synthetic voice snaps, "Correction coming," right as it targets the lure. Hanchi is completely stunned, staring at what's unfolding right in front of her like her brain can't catch up. Bemis digs through humanity's myths, chasing clues from living prehistoric monsters all the way to ancient sea reptiles. She keeps pushing through the hunt, rattling theories in her head mass hallucinations, and every psychological twist that could explain what they're seeing. She chooses to wipe out those brutal, bone-chilling fears from humanity's collective unconscious. Her strange power starts breaking the serpent's massive body, dissolving it and warping it into unbearable shapes. She locks her will onto the last correction target left inside the creature's mythos. With one last burst of light, that terrifying monster gets swapped out right into a cute, blubbery little seal. Bemis bursts in, saying the optimization's finally done, and then she flips it into the harmless seal theory. The whole crew crowds the shoreline, eyes locked on that tiny seal bobbing in the waves. Later, that adorable seal is spotted sprawled and cozy in a huge bathtub, completely at ease. Back in the office, the subordinate leans in and tells the wild tale of how that legendary sea serpent ended up becoming a seal. Tuchera couldn't believe her eyes. How in the world did something this bizarre even happen in the first place? Hanchi squints hard, and the whole unbelievable thing instantly reeks of lies to her. The tutor straight up says it's obviously all on Bemis. Hanchi can't shake the feeling that this level of full-on physical reconstruction is not just weird, it's dangerously wrong. Bemis's cheeks tint red, he's annoyed as hell that they keep calling him that beast. Tutura grins, waves at Kotoru and Elsie, and tells them they'll split up right here. He yawns like a warning, basically begging, "Let's hunt down a cafe, I'm starving." Hanchi watches them vanish, her heart screaming, "Can I really let him go? Boss?" Her fingers clench hard around the hilt of her sheathed blade, like her body already knows trouble is coming. Clenching her jaw with grim resolve, she swears she'll crush every threat that dares to touch him. Elsie fixes her senior with a knowing, half-asleep look, like she already knows exactly what's coming. The three of them huddle on a rooftop, staring down at Tutura from far away. Elsie bursts into a giggle, sensing Hanchi's real feelings, something he's never dared to say out loud. She scoots in close to her stoic captain, grinning as she calls her name playfully. Elsie grins and tells Hanchi to just slide in close to Tutra. Hachi pauses, eyes narrowing as the shock of that unexpected proposal hits him like a wave. A spark of an idea gets planted the moment the three of them stand side by side. Hanshi's face twists into full-on exasperation at that insanely ridiculous suggestion. She fires back, asking what Elsie is cooking up, and Elsie just smirks, teasing her for being so damn worried. Elsie Beams bluntly points out that Hanshi's staying in Japan for a while no matter what. Hanshi crosses her arms and gives a rough nod like, "Fine, let's hunt for a house around here." Their hunt drags them straight to a local real estate agency in the Acu ward. An agent slams a stack of folders in front of them full of Exorcist property files and every name tied to the personnel. Kotoru, Elsie, and a totally grumpy Hanshi awkwardly cram onto the office couch like they've got nowhere else to be. Kotoru spun around the strange office, squinting like, "What the heck is this place?" He demanded to know why the others were there, then threw out a grin that said, "Looks like you're all having a blast." The agent hypes up Hanshi, praising her for scoring the perfect house for the man she loves. Elsie drops a whisper, "It's true, right?" And Hanshi hisses through clenched frustration. The agents pitch a harem, and Kotoru and Hanshi explode with righteous fury. The chaos hits, and Hanshi's mind snaps. Suddenly, he's slammed with a brutal flashback of the past. A flashback kicks off as a young toucher steps forward, formally introducing himself to her. The memory kicks off with a young, starstruck Tutra finally meeting his senior. Hanshi only for Hanshi to glance aside like he's not impressed at all. With zero hesitation, young Tutura steps forward to introduce himself only for Hanshi to snap, warning him he can't be a liability. The intimidated boy jolts his gaze up at his intimidating senior, and the words for her title barely even leave his mouth. Hanshi shuts the door and grills the boy in his head, wondering if he's actually cut out for this or just talking big. The scene snaps back to his training. There he stands, dead determined, but totally awkward on his feet. His clumsy swings came up short, just too tiny to land, and those fish-like freaks slid past him with zero effort. He digs deep, gathers every last ounce of strength, and swings with deadly focus, his face tight with pure, unstoppable effort. After getting smashed so easily, he just stares as Hanshi tears past him, charging straight at the beast. He jolts up from the dirt, wheezing hard, face smeared in that ripped-up outfit that screams his defeat. She lays a cool towel on his head, an unexpected, rare burst of tenderness that hits him like a shock. When he stares past her, his face snaps into pure shock at what he sees up ahead. The massive reptile crumples, smoking and utterly beaten, destroyed by her massive, effortless power.